Tonight's forum is for candidates for City of Bellingham mayoral race. There are two candidates on the ballot, and I would like to introduce Seth Fleetwood and Kim Lund. The City of Bellingham management is led by the elected mayor in a strong mayor-weak council form of government. The mayor is the executive and administrative leader, overseeing all employees and all city actions such as public works and law enforcement. The mayor serves a 4-year term. We will follow specific rules for this forum. There will be no opening statements. Instead, the introductory question is tailored to elicit responses consistent with opening statements. Candidates will have a 1.5 minute to respond to each question and will make a 1-minute closing statement. The order of questions and closing statements was determined earlier this evening by a roll of the dice. Each candidate has a challenge card, and candidates may use this card to challenge or rebut their opponent's response. The challenging candidate will have 30 seconds to state the challenge, and their opponent will have 30 seconds to respond to the challenge. Each candidate may use their challenge card only one time. So we have two timers tonight, Michelle Kopcha and Carol Como over there, and they'll be tracking the time. And the timers will flash a yellow sign when you have 15 seconds remaining, and then a red sign when your time is up. If you continue, candidates, a bell will ring, just like that, to signal stop talking. We ask that the candidates be respectful of the time allotted due to the limited amount of time that we have and our desire to include as many questions as possible. So members of the public were able to submit questions through the League of Women Voters of Bellingham-Whatcom County website up until today. These questions were screened to ensure that they were not duplicates and were appropriately addressed to both candidates. So I would like to remind the audience that is present tonight to hold your applause until the conclusion of the forum. We encourage you, members of the audience, to provide written questions for the candidates. Questions you submit will be asked of both candidates. Ushers are available to pick up your questions and bring them to the screeners behind me. So ushers, raise your hand. So here they are. Questions will be screened by League member Robin Barker, who you just met. And after the start, we will rotate which candidate responds to questions first. So with the rules covered, let's get started. Timers, are you ready? Great. So candidates, you'll have 1.5 minutes to respond to the question. And our first question is, what are you most excited about working on if you're elected? So we're going to start with candidate Fleetwood.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you to the League for having this tonight. It's a pleasure to be here. Kim and I were just reflecting on the duration of this campaign and how it's been a real marathon and how we're looking forward to, well, I'll speak for myself. 3 weeks to go. We all talk about the priorities in this race, and they've been identified by, I think, all of the candidates. And of course, it's been the affordability crisis that we have, how to address the issue of homelessness in our community, responding to the climate issue. There's a number of prominent issues that we all speak to frequently. But for me to answer that honestly, it certainly includes all those things. But what I'm most excited about in the work that I do as a public servant, and it's always been this way, it's about constant community betterment. I've been public-minded my entire adulthood. I enjoy the work of continuously making our community better. And the reality is that thousands and thousands of people in the coming years are going to be moving to Bellingham. And I think the most important work that we do, in a general sense, is preparing for that future and building the future city we need that is sustainable and equitable and has beautiful buildings and figures out how to accommodate people in ways that make us more socially cohesive. and generous and happy.
Okay, thank you. So, candidate Lund, your response to question 1, please.
I love this question. I think there are many candidates in this race that talk about increasing good options for housing, taking positive actions on climate change, on community health and safety, on vibrancy in our downtown, and all of these things it's work that I'm deeply excited to engage in. But I think that underneath all of that is that what excites me about the possibility of being mayor is that the foundation of our success is predicated on excellent executive leadership and stewardship. And a leader that is committed to taking the decisive actions to moving us forward and building positive momentum on all of these challenges that are before us. And I have the experience from my time as a team leader in the for-profit industry, as a nonprofit executive director. I have the experience to do this work. I am so excited to be a mayor that sets an intentional culture of yes at the city of Bellingham. I'm excited to make decisions and take courageous action in a data-informed environment with excellent communication to all of you. I'm committed to sustaining the energy required to do this work and pursue this. I wake up every day thinking about ways to better this excellent community that we all work in and are lucky enough to call home. That's what excites me.
Okay, thank you. So the second question is, please share a situation that provides us an example of your management style in action. So we'll start with you, candidate Lund.
An example of my management style in action, I can think of 2 examples. One is at a time at Intel Corporation when I was selected to be part of an elite team to close one of the factories. And rather than leaning out, it was a very lean team of both engineers and technicians. And rather than relax at a time of closure and say, job well done, we leaned in and we set extraordinary goals for cost, for safety, for performance, and we blew the doors off. We had people from around the world, from Asia, from Israel, from across the states coming in to look at what we did. And it's the power of intentional goal setting and leadership in action that instead of leaning back, we leaned in that moment. And that is the leader that I have proven myself to be. Another example would be from the Schools Foundation, and that is when we reshaped Parent-Teacher Association fundraising in this community to be more equitable and to create supports. I was a leader that invited every parent group in all schools to share their resources so that we were lifting up the schools with the least means and the highest needs. And it was years of collaborative conversations to arrive at that moment, but it took a leader to say, hold my hand, let's jump, let's take this action for the betterment of this community. And those are 2 examples.
Okay, thank you. So, candidate Fleetwood, your response to question 2, please.
My mind goes back to 2020 and the events of that year. The pandemic came. There was social unrest, the George Floyd murder in the summer of 2020 that led to racial justice protests, the protests around homelessness that occurred at Camp 210. In all of those dynamics, there was enormous amount of community stress. There were a range of strong opinions that were deeply felt by people with differing views on the left and on the right about how to respond to crisis. And as an example of my management style, I would cite how I comported myself with partners and colleagues at the City of Bellingham when it was necessary to decide upon a course of action and address how we were going to respond. In each case, I was able to demonstrate calm. I was collaborative. I worked with the people around me to ask questions, to build consensus around approach, to be as informed as possible, and to make important and well-grounded decisions. I look forward to addressing this a bit more, what I think it'll come up in the course of this, but fundamentally it was consensus-based approach, and it worked.
Okay, thank you. Question number 3. As the administrative leader for the city's department heads, which of the many city departments do you think need immediate focus or attention, and on what issue or issues? Candidate Fleetwood.
So by happenstance, as mayor, because of a variety of things, including retirements, I've been responsible for hiring almost 80% of the department heads, and depending on how you count them, 12 or 13. I've made what I think are really, really good hires. I'm proud of the people with whom I work. They do excellent work. They're highly competent. We engage in group dynamics on a weekly basis in various meetings. And I think I've been able to demonstrate a culture in those dynamics where we respect each other, we're civil, we address difficult conversations, but we work well together. This is work that involves perpetual betterment. You never achieve a moment where suddenly everything's fantastic. It's too dynamic. There's too many inputs that are constantly happening. We're constantly responding and addressing changing circumstance. So there's not a particular thing that I need to point at a certain department. We're engaged in improvement in all departments all of the time. We're seeking to staff back up, make decisions about how we deploy limited resource to deliver essential public services to the people of Bellingham. And it's an ongoing, iterative process.
Okay, thank you. So, Candidate Lund, your response, please.
Certainly. I deeply believe in continuous improvement. That is part of my ethos. It's who I am. And as an engineer, I also believe in setting goals and measuring our progress. I deeply believe that our progress should be public in these efforts. And I'll make a distinction in my response in being specific in the departments that I would like to focus on. And in specifically, that would be HR. I know that when department heads are coming and saying, these are the key positions that I need, that those, and we do, we amend the budget to make those key hires. Those positions, I've heard from more than one city council member, they are not being posted for 5 months, for 7 months. We need to be posting those jobs in a timely manner. We had a finance department that just gave the mid-year budget update to City Council just weeks ago, in the middle of September for the mid-year. I will be a mayor where we are receiving accurate and timely and detailed city financial reports on time. I also see a need for leadership in our public works and an ethos to say that we are starting from a place of yet. And I want to have a focus on our planning department because resourcing and empowering the great people there can be of tremendous public benefit to build more housing and create more supply in our community. It's among the most important things that we can be doing right now.
Okay, thank you. Question number 4. What is a project, improvement, or initiative that you've seen done in another city, which you would like to see us here in Bellingham replicate? Candidate Lund.
Well, there are many. I'm a big fan of looking outside of this community. We have many urgent and important issues before us to tackle. And I deeply believe in looking in expertise and communities that are doing this work well. We do not have to reinvent the wheel. We should be looking outside and copying with pride from the programs that are working better elsewhere. And we don't have to look far. In Olympia, they've had tremendous success eliminating public transportation transportation fees to increase ridership that equitably benefits everyone and advances their climate goals. We can look to the city of Anacortes. They have adjusted their multifamily tax exemption to create and stimulate affordable housing. They've changed it from the 12-year product that we have now to a 20-year product. It's been a tremendous success. We don't have to look far. We know that there are approaches that work within the Cascadia community, and I want to be looking outside and adopting those approaches and bringing them here. On a national level, we can look to doing a by name list to do better service for people that are unhoused in our community. We have a single point in time measurement that is nameless. These people have names. We should know their stories and their needs, and we should be doing this count monthly so we know who is entering homelessness in this community and those programs that are efficacious in helping people exit homelessness.
Thank you. Candidate Fleetwood, your response, please.
Yeah, cities are engaged in a constant process of borrowing ideas from other places. The bag ban that Bellingham passed that I was proud to sponsor in 2011 is an example. We were very intentional about that. We wanted to create an ordinance that others would replicate and put pressure on the state of Washington to create a uniform rule. We were successful in that. Other people adopted that measure. I was at the U.S. Conference of Mayors in January, and one of the themes at that event was that we all need to, cities across the country, represented there by mayors from all over the country, need to shamelessly steal good ideas from other cities, and we do that. In the realm of climate, there's lots of ideas that have been coming out of Seattle. In fact, the city of Bellingham adopted a requirement that new buildings of a certain size be built electric so that we can help identify and make improvements in our climate goals. I read a story just today from Santa Barbara about safe parking, about how to utilize churches. We've tried that idea and it didn't work before, but they had some thoughts about how we might make some improvements in that regard. So we're constantly in the process of using good ideas from other cities.
Okay, thank you. Question number 5. How will you address concerns related to public safety and policing in Bellingham, including improving community police relations, addressing our rising crime rates, and ensuring accountability and transparency within law enforcement? And we'll start with you, Candidate Fleetwood.
Public safety in the community is one of the most important items, if not number one, in our community. And we've seen in the post-pandemic period a dramatic increase in a whole array of dire social conditions. Ultimately, it's a comment on systemic issues, I would submit, in the United States of America, because these are issues that are felt in other cities throughout the land. But they manifest here in Bellingham, and that's what we have to address. We had staffing shortages in the city, and I identified and worked with our partners throughout the city in coming up with ways that we could creatively staff back up. We were competing with other cities who are having the same problems around wages, trying to compete to get laterals from other places. There was a deep reduction in morale that happened in the summer of 2020 around policing. Fortunately, morale has improved. Kim will indicate that she was endorsed by the police in this round. I just have to preemptively say it takes a couple of people to endorse in the police department, but we're staffing back up and making considerable progress, and we'll continue to do so.
Okay, thank you. Your response, please, Candidate Lund.
Can you repeat the full question?
Yes. How will you address concerns related to public safety and policing in Bellingham, including improving community police relations, addressing rising crime rates, and ensuring accountability and transparency within law enforcement?
This question is relevant because safety and well-being is a foundation on which we build other programs and progressive ideals. And when members of the community do not feel safe, it erodes and is corrosive to this foundation, and it limits what we can achieve as a city. So having a focus on safety and well-being for all members of this community will be an important part of my administration. And yes, as Mayor Fleetwood highlighted, I do have the endorsement of the Police Guild. And I also hold the endorsement of the fire union. I have the endorsement of our safety professionals because I recognize that we need to be doing more. We need to be doing more to meet both the urgent challenges before this community, and those are decisions. We can be making decisions differently. I deeply believe that we can accelerate hiring for both police and fire so they are not exhausted. They are not experiencing compassion fatigue on the front lines right now. We are on track to have a community policing model with bicycle patrols, with a narcotics team in the middle of an opioid crisis in 2026. As mayor, I will accelerate hiring for both police and fire well in advance of 2026 so that we can fill our ranks, and also invest in the long-term strategic plans that those organizations have been calling for unheard for years.
Thank you. Okay, question number 6. Share with us a specific example of how you have facilitated collaboration amongst polarized groups with what appear to be irreconcilable competing interests. What did you learn from that experience? We'll start with candidate Lund.
I think this is a great question, and it's so relevant to the climate and the community and where we are as a nation right now. And I highlighted just briefly in my opening statement about coming together to reshape fundraising in this community amongst parent groups. And that might sound trivial, but it is not. We have 14 different elementary schools. We have 4 different middle schools in this community, and they are traditionally been siloed. People perceive the experience of their children and their family schools to be the lived experience for all of Bellingham, and that is not the case. We have PTAs that struggle to raise $3,500 annually, and we have PTAs that can raise $65,000 with ease, and that is a tremendously different set of experiences, opportunities, and resource for those students. So when I called for collaborative fundraising, that was met with a tremendous diversity of opinion and thought. And it really took courageous leadership to invite people to think about what is possible when we come together for the betterment of Bellingham. And that is exactly the kind of mayor I will be.
Thank you. Your response, please, to question number 6, candidate
Sure.
Fleetwood.
I'll just take a brief moment to reference the fact that the issues with staffing in the police department are not a function of a failure of or lack of budget. We have sufficient budget. It's a staffing issue, and we're staffing back up. And as we've indicated many times, when we get close to the level and success in staffing up, we'll come back to council and ask for more. I put 50 positions, in just less than 50 positions in the fire department budget, a record, so that we could staff back up at a quicker rate. Irreconcilable groups. I could look at the response to the Camp 210. There were people on the right that wanted me to go in with, or the police to go in there and clear it all out right away. There were people who were concerned about the plight of the marginalized on the left and large numbers there, and they asserted that I needed to keep the camp in place. And what I did was recognize that we needed to increase emergency shelter. I acknowledged the fact that there was a need for that our congregate living center at Lighthouse Mission was full. I worked to find a solution that demonstrated respect for the marginalized and improved the plight of those in need of emergency homes, but also do the difficult work of making decisions to clear the encampment. And I'd love to be able to talk to that in more detail, but I'm out of time.
Yeah, you're done. Okay. So, Candidate Lund, do you want to make a challenge statement? Okay, you have 30 seconds, I believe.
Well, I've heard what Seth has said about Camp 210 here tonight, but as mayor, you are the chief executive and the administrator for more than 900 employees at the city of Bellingham. And I would like to hear Mayor Fleetwood expand on how his decision-making expanded and protected city workers in that moment. Because it's not just that I have the endorsements of police and fire, it is also the Parks Department and Public Works employees, the secretaries and professionals, and all of that, Camp 210 was a factor in my receiving their endorsement.
Okay, so Candidate Fleetwood, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Yeah. Be hard to answer that question in 30 seconds, I will confess in advance. The issues around Camp 210 were highly complicated. So complicated that I don't think I can describe it in the 18 seconds required. What I will say briefly is we took the concerns very seriously and continue to. We've invested in security. We've done a variety of things to improve a sense of security at City Hall. In fact, that's the reason, 30 seconds. I'll try to, sorry.
Okay, thank you. So question number 7. What additional investments do you think the city should make to address the need for low-income housing? And Candidate Fleetwood, your response, please.
So the city of Bellingham spends, just from our own local resources, $10 million a year on helping with subsidized housing. We talk about the 3 S's that's become prominent. We need to increase supply of housing in our community. We need to stabilize rent, and there's a variety of things that we're doing in that regard that the council is going to be reviewing to try and help in that complicated market-driven problem. And we invest substantially in subsidized housing, far more than most communities of our size. So as a council member many years ago, I sponsored the Home Fund. And this came after years of me working as a chair for the Countywide Housing Affordability Task Force, which came up with a recommendation to create a public levy, and that's what we cited as authority when we put forward the Bellingham Home Fund idea. It passed, it brings in millions of dollars a year, and that's one of the means by which we're able to address what we refer to as housing first, which is the fundamental way you address housing is by dedicating effort to build more housing in our community.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Lund, your response, please.
This is an area where I get excited because this is an area where a city can have tremendous public benefit by making different decisions. And so, yes, I absolutely think that there are things that we can make different choices on. And I would begin with adding resources and empowering staff in the planning department. If we can decrease our permitting times, then we are decreasing our costs to build. Costs begin on the day that you go to the permit desk. And if we can decrease costs, then we will increase the incentive to build. And homelessness is directly connected to housing affordability. And we need to be adding to supply. And when we add more staff and empower them, we are also going to benefit renters in this community. We are going to strengthen renter protections, and we are going to increase our ability to do enforcement against bad landlords. I've talked about looking outside of Bellingham for models that are doing this well, and there are innovative partnerships with local land trusts happening. There are exciting new innovations and public development authorities and ways that cities can use their funds and their investment funds to be financial backers in housing. We can look at creating an inventory of pre-approved design. All of these things are decisions we can directly make for the betterment, and a strong mayor's action on affordable housing can have enormous public benefit.
Okay, thank you. So question number 8. Right, question number 8. What ideas do you have to manage growth and thus maintain the quality of life in the city? And we'll start with you, candidate Lund.
I think about this a lot because growth is coming and it's already here. And when I was growing up in this city, it was a city of just over 30,000. And probably in this next mayor's tenure, it's going to cross the 100,000 threshold. So we need to be challenging ourselves to find approaches, to evolve, and also protect and nurture what makes this community special. So how can we do that? Well, one way is while we're calling for denser and more denser housing and infill in this community, we can look at calling and releasing restrictions on growing up. We can look at smaller lots to increase buildable land supply. We can look at our setbacks. We can look at parking minimums. All of these things we can do in a way that would create more flexibility for how we're growing so we can protect our mature trees, which is of deep importance to me personally, and for the generations that are going to come behind. We can look at zoning, form-based zoning codes that say when we build, we're going to be building in a way and a form and a built environment that matches the established character of our neighborhoods. I think it is deeply possible for us to do all of this in parallel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Fleetwood, your response, please.
Could you restate the question,
Sure.
please?
What ideas do you have to manage growth and thus maintain the quality of life in our city?
So in 2004, 20 years ago, I sponsored something called the Growth Forums. It was the first discussion in our community about how to thoughtfully densify. And the notion was, even then, 20 years ago, how do we ensure that we don't just sprawl out like King County has into our finite natural resource-based countryside? What came out of that was ideas and recommendations around establishing urban villages, and those were incorporated into our 2006 comprehensive plan. Since then, there's been considerable evolution as it relates to how and why we need to densify. It's regarded as appropriate and better for the environment and our climate goals. It creates social cohesion. We're actually better off when we're closer together. There's all sorts of opportunities that are going to be coming forward in the next couple of years as we engage in what I think is going to be a historic comprehensive plan update. In my experience over the years working, I've been involved in numerous comprehensive plan processes, and I look forward to working on that and identifying the ways that we densify. There's direction from the state, as people know, that is going to mandate that we allow, as a matter of right, increased number of units on a lot of land. So how we finesse all of that, harness the energies, and identify how density is going to occur is going to be everything, highly important, and I look forward to it.
Okay, thank you. Question number 9. What is your assessment of the progress toward developing our waterfront? And how do you intend to move forward with this major project? And we'll start with candidate Fleetwood.
Well, I've shared this before as a kid that grew up in Bellingham and looked out and saw Georgia Pacific Mill pretty much every day of my life. It never occurred to me that there would be this amazing opportunity someday to envision the future waterfront and the accessibility of the public to it. As president of the Bellingham City Council, sitting right here, 10 years ago, we at long last adopted the Waterfront Master Plan. We always recognized it would be an organic document and subject to change and changing conditions. But fundamentally, it's an impressive document that assumes that we're going to have jobs on the waterfront, we're going to have mixed use, we're going to have parks and trails. The criticism that it's moving too slowly, I hear, I understand, but it's also important to recognize that it's going to be, to a large degree, market-driven. I like what we're seeing down there that the port's putting in the area around trackside. We're having to address the issues around ABC and recycling and the community concerns around that. But fundamentally, I think that the vision for the waterfront was a good one, and over time, we're going to see a really exciting place.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Lund, your response, please.
Growing up here in Bellingham, my grandfather retired from the mill at Georgia Pacific, and my uncle was a displaced worker when the factory was shuttered. And so I deeply appreciate that we have turned what was a hardship for our community into opportunity and possibility. And I've spent time going back and looking at the 2004 Waterfront Futures Report. That was a time when our community came together and we envisioned what was possible with the space before us. And we've made compromises over time, and we have agreed that we want a vibrant waterfront that works for all of Bellingham. It's accessible, it has access to our waterfront and green spaces. It's where people are living and working, and all of that can be true. But this moment right now where we find ourselves in this community, it feels fraught, honestly, because we have said yes to ABC Recycling, and the way that they've been operating in our community with excessive noise to 3 a.m. is not compatible with the original vision for our waterfront in 2004 or today. And we need leadership that is calling for a working waterfront that works for all. I want there to be good jobs, but not at the expense of other jobs. And we need to have a courageous conversation about keeping on track for a waterfront that works for all. Thanks.
Thank you. Question number 10. As mayor, what would be your next step to address climate change? Candidate Lund.
Well, I sat in this room a few weeks ago, and I was deeply disappointed to hear Public Works announce that we were stalling again on our urban forestry management plan. As a board member of the Whatcom Million Trees Project, we have been calling to move this plan forward, and in the absence of moving it forward, to enact interim tree protections for our trees of significance and heritage trees in our community. Because when we are losing 150-year-old trees right now, we do not have 150 years for new seedlings to grow and buffer our community and create resilience in the face of an uncertain climate future. So as mayor, I want to pick up and propel forward the urban forestry management plan. And this is important because it is a practical, tangible thing that a city can be doing. We know exactly where the neighborhoods are that are most vulnerable to the next heat zone. We know where we should be planting trees today, where we should have been planting trees 10, 15 years ago to create the resilient community that we all deserve. So we should get to work on that with urgency. And that aligns with well-being in the community. It aligns with our stormwater management goals and stormwater compliance. So that is one of the most tangible and easy things that we can be doing right away.
Thank you. Candidate Fleetwood, your response, please.
I think this is an opportunity to demonstrate a little bit of contrast between us. I certainly agree that tree planting is something to emphasize in the city of Bellingham. In fact, last night I announced, after conversations and collaboration with staff, that we're going to expedite and increase the rate at which we bring forth the urban forestry management plan, and also gave direction to begin work on an urban protection tree program. So we're making progress in that regard. But to assert that the primary mechanism by which we're going to address the climate crisis in Bellingham is by simply planting more trees is inaccurate. The highest priority in the city of Bellingham is to address the need to decarbonize and to do the profoundly complex work of changing our systems that are presently on gas and converting them to renewable energy systems. And my administration has increased the prominence of climate action like never before. I've put additional money in our budget to address that issue. We're making progress on charging stations and electrification and building electrification, and working on a pilot program to identify how we can help the 16,000 homes in our community convert to renewable systems and get off of gas systems. So trees are a huge part of it, but only one part of it.
Thank you. Question number 11. How will you empower and work collaboratively with our city council? Candidate Fleetwood.
So as a former council member, and I should add that work as a council member is enormously important. You gain deep insight into the broad array of essential public services that are delivered by the city, and I have deep experience in this regard. My opponent does not. You work collaboratively with council by engaging with them, by understanding them. It's why I've been endorsed by a majority of the Bellingham City Council. They recognize that I work well with them, and I will continue to do that. The primary necessity, I think, is one of communication and collaboration and having access to each other. And whether it's in a council meeting or one-on-one, constant engagement, understanding and finessing ideas and vetting them in a thoughtful way. And I'll continue to do that, and we'll continue to make progress working with council.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Lund, your response, please.
I will come in as mayor with direct and relevant experience from my time as an executive director at a nonprofit. As an ED, you serve at the pleasure of your board, and you set an organizational budget that you believe reflects the organization's values. In this case, I'll be a mayor that sets a budget that reflects our community values and will advance our community priorities. And you have to bring that forth in a way to council or to your board in a way that you know that they are prepared to say yes to, that you have made the case across a diverse spectrum that this is the work that needs to be done and now. And I do not see evidence, and I'll cite a specific example for the mayor. The night that he first brought forth the open public drug use ordinance, City Council was not informed. Some of them had found out from the Herald that he was bringing this forward. He brought it forward. This is an important matter before the community. And he brought it forth with a motion to say yes, and 5 minutes of scheduled conversation on the agenda that evening. So that is evidence to me of a mayor who does not work or have robust advanced collaboration and communication with his council.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Fleetwood, you'd like to use your challenge card?
I would.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I know how to run the city. I know the people, the programs, the processes. I've done it for years. Could you explain how running the foundation that you run, which does good work, is even remotely equivalent to running a city with 1,000 employees, a $400 million budget, delivering essential public services to 100,000 people? How is that comparable?
So my answer to that would be exactly what was your direct relevant experience on the day that you took office. I've hired and fired. I have led teams of dozens of employees. I have led managers over diverse interdisciplinary teams before stepping into this role as mayor. And I would throw back to you, what was your organizational leadership experience that was relevant to the mayor's office before you stepped into this role as mayor?
Okay, thank you.
Do I get to respond? I don't get to respond to that.
No, you don't. Okay, we're on question number 12. What specifically should be done to stabilize the price of rentals in our community? And we'll start with candidate Lund.
I think the most important thing that we can do to stabilize the price of rentals is increase the supply of housing in this community. I spent time recently on a Pew Research report that was highlighting this work. And when cities are investing in increasing their housing supply, it not only lowers the cost of home ownership, but it has direct and significant impacts on the costs of rentals. When we increase rental availability, then we are decreasing the costs for our renters. And we have so many people that are cost burdened in their housing right now and are fragile in their housing. And one significant life event can be destabilizing. And so this is an issue of urgency. And absolutely, when we have bad landlords that are being highlighted for variations and violations on city letterhead, letting them know about corrections that need to be made, and we're setting forth a schedule of fines, and we do not enforce that, that is a shame on us. We should be absolutely enforcing the violations and holding bad landlords to account. And all of this work collectively will make a difference for renters in our community.
Thank you. Your response, candidate Fleetwood.
Yeah, this is a This is a challenging issue. Market forces have caused the price of rents to go up dramatically in our community and throughout the West, frankly. And it's a comment on the popularity of our region and the fact that people continue to move here with relatively greater means, jacking the prices up. I agree with Kim that one of the important measures to respond is to dramatically increase the supply of housing. Made reference to it earlier about a number of the things that we're doing in that regard. Earlier this year, council gave direction to the administration to bring forth a whole array of different options that are available that could be considered. I took that to heart. My mid-year budget that I just put forward increased a person in the planning department, an analyst who's going to be able to review the quality of inspections, amongst other things, an additional inspector who's going to be able to go and work on the rental licensing program and the inspections that are required there, an additional person who's going to be able to do enforcement. We're bringing forward an ordinance at our next meeting on October 30th that's going to allow for increased fines that we hope will increase the rate at which delinquent landlords respond to problems in the quality of rentals.
Okay, thank you. So question number 13, and this is the last question. What actions do you propose to support downtown businesses and attract more downtown businesses? Candidate Fleetwood.
So the history of downtown has been one of ups and downs. It was a thriving place when I was a kid. The mall came in and it tanked in 1988, and it was coming back when the pandemic hit. We saw a massive increase in social conditions, the fentanyl crisis, homelessness, people in mental health crisis, et cetera. And the community that recognized this is our public downtown. This is the place that we all love. And although there are positive things happening, clearly there are an array of needs that have been requested, and they're urgent. I put together something called the Downtown Solutions Working Group, where we work closely with a number of people that have businesses and interests downtown and allow for greater interface, closer interface with the administration. We've been staffing back up in police. We've increased funding for sanitation. We've created a graffiti abatement program. We've spent over $1 million in security for downtown. We're doing a whole series of things. I announced last night, after work with colleagues in the police department, we're going to increase, that seems to be the number one request that we have, we're going to increase patrols downtown, and we're going to continue doing the important work of working with legislative partners in getting resources to address more systemic issues around behavioral health and need for increased treatment.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Lund, your response, please.
My vision is for a Bellingham that is safe and stable and thriving for everyone. And downtowns run on people. And right now, the people who live, who go to work, who are suffering unhoused, are experiencing addiction, no one is benefiting in our downtown today. And Mayor Fleetwood highlighted the Downtown Solutions Group, but we have not been listening for years. And to be honest, I had a meeting with the majority of the members of those businesses just a few weeks ago because they are still feeling unheard. Even though we have wrapped this in a solutions group, they are still feeling that the city is not taking the bold actions required to stabilize them as businesses in our community. And I will be a mayor that listens and takes action. I will also be wanting to do more for the people that are suffering on our streets. But I believe that when there is disruption or crime happening, that we can hold those people accountable by also providing the supports that are needed for people that are suffering. I think that we can continue to invest in community policing models and be not just doing this in a reactionary way, but we need sustained effort on this, and it needs to be part of a downtown activation plan. I urge you to look at what Seattle is doing, what Washington, D.C., and other cities are doing to take short-term, medium-term, and long-term comprehensive action.
Okay, thank you. So candidates, you now have the opportunity to make a 1-minute closing statement. So candidate Fleetwood, we'll start with you.
Thank you. Being mayor these last several challenging years has truly been the honor of my life. Regardless of what happens in this election, I'm always going to treasure the experience that I've had. It's been an amazing thing. I pretty much was engaged in emergency response from the moment I started, addressing crisis after crisis. I'm proud of the team that I put together to work with. They have been amazing. And we have been successful in addressing challenge after challenge. I would disagree with my opponent who suggests or implies that I'm somehow responsible for conditions. I had the duty of having to respond to a range of conditions, and I think the work that we've done has been good. I look forward to another term, continuing and bringing forth the experience that I've learned in these last several years.
Thank you. Candidate Lund, your response, your closing statement, please.
We have a wonderful and generous community, and yet the last school bond just squeaked by and the Children's Initiative passed by just 20 votes. If we cannot do better, then people will rightfully continue to lose confidence. We need a city hall that can do more. We need to be more than just average and unremarkable, because there is so much at stake. Bellingham should be leading on housing, on climate, and not just trees, on community safety and well-being for all, because if not here, where? I will enter City Hall as a mayor with the critical skills and the passion and the belief that we can be doing more to lead. City workers know this. The diverse organizations that are asking you to vote for me know this. This is an opportunity to reflect not just on executive competence, but who has the compassion, the curiosity, and the political will to make the hard decisions to do more. I'm excited to be a mayor for all of you, for my children and my children's children. I'm be honored to earn your vote.
Thank you. So on behalf of the League of Women Voters, I want to thank both of you for being here tonight and for your commitment to our community by running for this important office. Voters, you can find more information about the candidates online at vote411.org and in your voter pamphlet. So just a reminder that every vote in this community counts. So ballots will be mailed October 18th. Your ballot must be postmarked or in a ballot drop box before 8 p.m. on November 7th. Please remember to sign that ballot envelope, and if you're mailing by postal service, we recommend doing it early. thank you to everyone. Good evening, good night.